Hey everybody, Matt Justin here, back with another COVID-19 legal update for small business owners. So we are talking about, this week we've been talking about recovery, starting to focus on the things that we need to start focusing on in order to plan for and be ready for when these stay-at-home orders are lifted, when businesses can get back to operating at full capacity. Now, I want everybody to be careful and understand that what we're talking about here is it's not going to be the same. We're not going to look like we did back in January as business owners. We're not going to look like what we did back this time last year. The game has changed. There are different things that are going to be happening to us and around us that we have to sort of take in, observe, and reorient ourselves into making decisions about the growth of our business, the recovery of our business, and making sure that we can do the best we can for our customers, our staff, and ourselves. So last video I talked about the OODA loop, a strategic device developed by Colonel John Boyd back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. Used first in military matters, but it's often being used now in business matters. OODA stands for Observe, Orient, Decide, and Act. And the most successful organizations are ones that can develop this mental model of dealing with the world and be able to cycle through the OODA loop on either a fast pace to deal with lots of changing environments, or to take a step back, stop, challenge everything, assess things, and think about different ways of doing business. Now, we have an opportunity now. Our OODA loop has been sort of disrupted. Our day-to-day lives have been sort of sidetracked into this sort of thing, and we can start to spend a little bit of time thinking about the best ways to move forward. So I want to talk about a couple of mental models in particular. So the OODA loop is actually dependent upon other mental models for orientation. Itself is not really a mental model for decision making. Rather, it's a grander strategy for dealing with and assessing and working with mental models and business models and things of that nature. So I want to talk about a couple of different sort of mental models that I think people can start to employ that can help. So the first of these is the circle of competence. And this is actually developed by Warren Buffett way back in the 90s, believe it or not. And basically it boils down to this. You have to know what your circle of competence is. What are your aptitudes? What are you good at? What is your business good at? What are you personally as an owner good at? And also, what has changed in the past few weeks that has expanded that circle of competence? Because we have had to make decisions and we had to engage in certain kinds of business and work that has forced our mental circle of competence to grow a little bit. Now, growth in your circle of competence is a good thing that allows you to operate at the optimum level, but you have to work within your circle of competence. So what happens when your circle of competence has been kicked around like a playground soccer ball? It's going to be difficult. So you have to start to assess what you know, what you can do. Now, we've learned that we can do new things. And once you understand what your circle of competence is, you're going to find yourself able to make smart decisions, to make decisions that are going to be based upon knowledge rather than assuming we know something. Because often, as Buffett pointed out, it's not that he knows everything about these various businesses that he and Berkshire Hathaway have invested in over the years. Rather, Buffett talks about the fact he knows what he knows and he operates within that circle. And he operates and works with people who operate in their own circle. And that's why one of the reasons why Berkshire Hathaway has been so successful. So determine what your circle of competence is and spend some time now thinking about what are the new things that you have learned in your business new techniques that you have learned, new delivery mechanisms that you have learned, new services that you have learned, and assess them. What do you know versus what do you think you know? Okay? The next mental model that I want people to start to think about is something called the inversion method or the inversion model. So Shane Parrish, who runs a blog called Farnham Street, where he talks about mental models and thinking and thinking as it applies to business and personal life and things like that. He says that it's easier to avoid stupidity than it is to achieve brilliance. So what the inversion model does is, okay, this is what I have done right now, say the 5 things that I have done to avoid going out of business. And what he suggests, or what the inversion model suggests, is that you invert that and say, what are the 5 things that I need to do to make my business even more successful? Or if you flip it around the other way, these are the 5 things that I can do to make $1 million this year, or $10 million this year, or reach whatever goal that you want. Or the inverse of that is, what can I do to make sure that I keep paying my current staff, that I keep addressing and serving my current customers so that I can stay in business? So rather than looking at trying to become the most successful business, right now you might be thinking about, what can I do to stay in business? So we need to think about inverting the problem. Now, the inversion method is not foolproof because it does rely upon our own sort of biases and goes back to the circle of competence. But you can start to think about things from a different point of view. So you're going to attack the problem from a different point of view. And finally, I want to talk about confirmation bias. Now, a lot of times we've heard about confirmation bias when it comes to things like the news and politics, and we tend to seek out information that makes us feel good, that makes us feel comfortable, that confirms what we know. But a confirmation bias at this point can be extraordinarily dangerous for small business owners. So if you happen to be thinking, well, I'm a restaurant and I was hugely popular at the beginning, back in January, February, we were killing it, but you weren't as responsive as your competitors to embrace new ideas and new concepts. Or if you were a service provider and your service provision sort of slowed down a little bit, and you weren't as adaptable because you had to spend so much time revamping how you did business that you lost contact with your customers, you're not going to be as good as you were back in January and February. And you have to accept that. But you can't seek out information that says, oh, yeah, we'll be able to get back to where we were. I'm sorry, you probably won't. You may get back to where you were in cash flow situation, but maybe not in your business model. So try to start looking for ways and information that runs counter to what your preferred method is. If you can't find that information, you need to start going outside your normal circle and start finding people who can maybe provide you that information, who can challenge your thinking and challenge your confirmation bias so that you're not stuck thinking that your business is going to be one way. Because if you get stuck in a confirmation bias, you get stuck in this danger that Boyd frequently talked about in the OODA loop, which is you become isolated. You become cut off from information and feedback that you're getting from the outside world. And the longer you are isolated, the more disorderly your world is going to become. It's the fundamental premise of the second law of thermodynamics. I promise I'm not going to get all weird on you, but the more isolated you are, the more likely it is things are going to get disordered. So it's time to start expanding your circle and asking people outside your realm of possibility and your realm of business. And this is where a management team comes in. I've spoken many, many times about a management team. And management teams are usually made up of professionals and people, mentors, outside of your normal circle of operation. A good management team is going to have an insurance broker, an accountant, a banker, a lawyer. I know it's self-serving. You may have other professionals, marketing people. You could have mentors. You could have networking groups like BNI or Vistage or other groups, things that are going to get people from outside your normal circle and start to feed information into you that you might not have thought about, and thereby avoid confirmation bias. So as you start planning your recovery, you need to start thinking about what are the things outside of your circle of competence that you can bring into your circle of competence. Expand it out a little bit and look for new ideas and new models. So in our next talk, we're going to talk about some more concrete steps. I know I've been a little bit fuzzy and a little bit theoretical here, but the next video we're going to talk about some concrete concepts that business owners can start to employ right now so that they can start to be ready and have the framework ready for when these stay-at-home orders and this self-isolation and the pandemic starts to ease. In the meantime, I hope everybody is doing well. I hope everybody is safe, healthy, and keep your head up. We're going to get through this, and I'll look forward to talking to you later. Bye-bye.